Welcome to this fourth and final chapter of the module. In this chapter, we will discuss the challenges that have been there in implementation of devolution and the right to health. We'll also identify opportunities for you as a doctor to conduct advocacy at the county level and at the national level, and what your role can be in furthering the right to health. The Constitution of Kenya, as read with other laws, has provided a perfect fit in terms of regulating devolution and health. Notably though, there have been a lot of challenges between 2013 and 2018 in the implementation of the right to health as well as devolution. Indeed, the journey towards devolution since 2013 has been a difficult one. There have been many instances when the national government and the county governments have shown a total disregard and lack of appreciation of their functions. Some of the challenges faced in devolution and the realization of the right to health include the following. First, there have been numerous shortcomings when it comes to understanding and appreciating what devolution exactly is. Indeed, we have seen a lot of overlap when it comes to the rights of the national government as well as the functions of the county governments. A clear example of this has been in the single business permit issue that has been before the High Court of Kenya. Whereas governments, especially county governments, have the power to levy fees, it is quite clear from the Constitution that they cannot ask for professional fees, particularly when it comes to licensing in the counties. Notably though, we have seen various doctors complain about the issue of single business permits, whereby county governments have made it mandatory for them to acquire single business permits. The Constitution, particularly under 4th schedule, remains extremely clear that county governments cannot levy single business permits from doctors. This is because the Constitution under 4th schedule excludes professionals from the payment of single business permits. Notably though, we have seen counties that have made this mandatory. The High Court, in making a decision as to the place of single business permit, in the case of John Jenga and others versus the County of Nakuru, in fact decided that this levying of the single business permit was unclear and unconstitutional. This case is similar to the Medina Medical Hospital case against the County of Garissa, where in 2015, the High Court also clearly stipulated that professional bodies, including doctors, must not pay for the single business permit as they are excluded within the 4th schedule of the Constitution. A second challenge that has over the years been seen with devolution and health has been the capacity of county governments to absorb funds. This in fact was seen in the earlier years of devolution, where county governments were unable to plan correctly and also to absorb the funds that had been given to them. This, in addition, is coupled with a lot of corruption that we have seen both at the national government and at the county governments. In fact, at the national government, 3 scandals come into mind. First, the 2014 Garvey Scandal, which publicized the use and abuse of monies that were given for purposes of vaccination. The Kenyan government had to return and refund some of these monies to Garvey. Secondly, there was a suspension of use of funds from the USAID, and this also was based on corruption and allegations of misuse. Lastly, we have also recently seen the report of the Global Fund Office of the Inspector General in 2017, whereby the Office of the Inspector General has acknowledged a missing 5.7 million shillings within the National TB program. And all this has led to several scandals that have shown a misuse and abuse of office at the Ministry of Health. This is also equally coupled with a lot of corruption that has been seen at the county levels, whereby county governments cannot account for funds that have been transferred to them. Corruption definitely has a great impact on the available resources in terms of health. Ultimately, corruption will have a negative impact on the population's levels of health. The Global Corruption Report, in fact, indicates that some of the key challenges in Kenya include lack of accountability and misuse of available funds. One other challenge that has been noted, particularly with devolution, has been the lack of use of the available intercoordination mechanisms that are available. We have often seen that as a result of the competition amongst counties, there is lack of development when it comes to issues to do with health, issues to do with infrastructure, and issues more particularly to do with the general population. Counties are more at competition with each other rather than cooperation. County and national governments must always remember and be instructed by Article 187 of the Constitution. Article 187 of the Constitution talks about the possibility of transfer of functions from one government to the other. In fact, Article 187 of the Constitution acknowledges that there is the legality and possibility of transfer of a function from one government to another, if particularly that function would be performed much better by the receiving government. Of course, Article 187 of the Constitution also recognizes that if such a transfer must happen, it must be legal. The same Article 187 also acknowledges that where there is such a transfer of power and functions from one county government or from one national government to another, then the relevant resources that are needed must also be transferred equally together with the power. This must always guide county governments and the national government in cooperation rather than competition. In implementation of the right to health, as enshrined in the Constitution's Article 43(1)(a), as read together with the Health Act, some of the key challenges and irregularities that have been noted in the health sector include the following. First, there has been noted absence of medical staff, particularly which has been unjustified. Number two, the misuse of funds, as has been noted, particularly with scandals that we have indicated, including the Garvey report, the office of the IG of the Global Fund, as well as the suspension of use of funds by USAID. In addition to that, most of the reports evidencing lack of implementation of the right to health indicate that some of the key challenges, other than embezzlement of funds, is the theft of drugs and equipment. This is also coupled with a lot of mismanagement at the top level. All these challenges cumulatively affect the implementation of the right to health, whether it is at the national level or at the county level. And therefore, we then ask ourselves, what really is the role of a doctor in implementation of the right to health as constitutionally enshrined? First, we believe that doctors must enhance their own capacities to be able to understand the right to health, devolution, and what it all entails and means. Given that constitutionally, devolution is widely acknowledged as a form of trickling down of resources, it is then the duty of a doctor to ensure that they familiarize themselves with the constitutional provisions on devolution and also the various separate functions as enshrined in the 4th schedule and the Gazette Notice 116 of August 2013. Appreciating and understanding devolution means that a doctor is able to provide oversight when it comes to issues at the county level and at the national level. It is the mandate of a doctor to ensure that they provide oversight not just at the national and county levels, but to also speak up when they notice that corruption is prevailing. They must not leave it to civil society, they must not leave it to the lawyers, they must be able to speak up, particularly when resources are lost at the Ministry of Health and at the various counties that they work in. Thirdly, we believe that it is the duty of a doctor to review any existing laws and policies at the county level, as well as participate in some of the laws that are being enacted at the county level. It is important to note that given that county assemblies are enacting laws currently, these laws will directly affect you as a doctor, and therefore you must be able to participate in the public participation that happens and also give your technical assistance and views when called upon. These laws do directly affect doctors, whether they recognize the same or not. One key last function that doctors must also do is monitor the budget at the county level and at the national level and track the responsibility of the county government in terms of implementation of the right to health. We believe that doctors must be able to ask questions, must be able to receive answers and must be able to monitor closely anything that affects their profession. And lastly, it would always be great for doctors to remain faithful to 3 documents. 1, the Constitution of Kenya. 2, your professional code of conduct. And lastly, your Hippocratic oath. In conclusion, we acknowledge that the Constitution of Kenya recognizes the right to health. It is a progressive piece of law that can be used to attain and maximize the right to the highest attainable standard of health. Doctors really need to acknowledge that in addition to the Constitution, we have a lot of laws that have been enacted and lack implementation when it comes to devolution and health. You play an extremely crucial role in devolution, yet many doctors do not recognize this. Many times, we often find doctors sitting back, or rather, taking a back seat and waiting for the politicians to decide on your behalf. Devolution means that doctors have a place to play at the county level as well as at the national level in terms of policy review, budget making processes, as well as shaping the direction within which we want to take as a country. It is your role to make sure that you not only remain faithful to the Constitution, but you also question a lot of the issues that happen at your county forums. It is your duty to participate when members of the County Assembly are enacting laws that affect the health sector. It is also equally your duty to provide technical assistance to some of these bills, particularly on issues such as surrogacy, in vitro fertilization, unsafe abortion, transgender issues, or any other hard question that really may not have an answer that is direct. This is therefore a clarion call to you as a doctor to begin playing a more actionable role and a more visible role, not just in devolution, but in keeping the health sector in check. Thank you.